All right, we'll call this Facilities Committee meeting to order on June 28th at 6 p.m. here in room 54. First order of business is roll call. And it appears everybody is present with Supervisor Lino on Zoom. Good evening, sir.
Hello.
Approval of the minutes. Everyone received them. Do I hear a motion?
I'll move to approve. I'll second.
So it's a motion and a second. Any comments, adjustments, changes to be noted? If not, all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Opposed? Motion passes, or it passes, yes. Public comments. I did see we had a letter. Is that for public comments or is that for to be discussed during the topic of the park?
That is the letter from Myron Park or from the town of Sand Creek regarding Myron Park, which is under HA.
Okay, so both of them items are for that.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. It appears we have no public comment. We'll move on to item E. Items replaced at the request of the chair. There are none. Staff report and recreational reports. We will begin with the Fair and Fair Board. Please proceed.
All right. Good evening, everyone. I've passed out, and Tim, you can find this online since you're not at the meeting. There's a schedule for, well, you probably can't see it from here, but there is a schedule. This is the latest schedule for the fair, when our events are. So I just thought I'd bring that along and share with you guys so you can see what's all going on. We hope that everybody comes and has some fun for the whole herd. Joins us with that. So we did make some major changes. We switched our non-animal judging to Tuesday. We're going to see how that goes. It seems kind of odd when you look at Wednesday that's not a full day of judging and a lot of chaos there, but I think it's going to help eliminate some congestion in the commercial building and allow families to actually bring their animals in and not have to worry about being in the judging for their non-animal projects. So hopefully this works good. Otherwise, again, we're working with Red Cedar Racing for a couple grandstand shows, and then we have the NTPA and the demo derby then on Sunday. So but the hours for the commercial building and everything are listed here. The more extensive schedule for when all the judging actually is scheduled is being worked on, finalized right now. So that'll be on the website tomorrow, hopefully. So if you have any questions on that. Also, I do have some brochures and I didn't think to stop and pick some up at the fair office. These are all of the county fairs in the state of Wisconsin. If you want one, stop out at the fair office. I'll be out there starting off and on after the 4th of July. Tells you where every fair in the state is and what they're having going on. So if you get a chance, you can do some traveling. Our summer showdown is active. We're getting some entries. That's our open class beef show. And I've gotten a lot of requests from the other animal species. When can we have an open sheep? When can we have an open dairy show? What about open chickens or poultry? So we're trying it. Baby steps, beef this year, and then we'll see how it goes. And see where we end. But the fair is coming fast. I need probably an extra week like I always do, but it all comes together in the end. So my little chaos that I always have, it's like, I always tell everybody that nobody knows what's going on in my scrambled egg brain, but it somehow comes together. I don't know if anybody has any questions about the schedule this year or everything's done.
I was just curious, will the concrete be in the animal building? That won't be ready yet, will it? But,
No,
okay.
that's just preliminary. There's, they're still working on, Rink Tech they sent a proposal for some of the concrete work. So the next thing is to, figure out what the costs, the estimated costs are, and then of course the big fundraising campaign. So that probably won't even happen next year yet. So
Okay.
yeah, it's a work in progress. So, yep. Thank you. So, yep. Unless-
Thank you very much.
Mm.
It's exciting time. We'll move on to Facilities and Parks Division. Go ahead, sir. All right, that concludes the Fair and Fair Board, and we will move on to Facilities and Parks.
Good evening, everyone. So we had a new facilities worker start on June 5th. So far, Adam Johnson is working out well. He got a few weeks under his belt, but seems like a good worker, so we're getting him broke in training. I recruited for a custodian and I made an offer to a candidate last week and she accepted. So working on the details with HR to get that finalized so we can get her started. I had a plumber come out and we checked out the well on the pump house between here and Judicial Center. The inspection showed that the existing well is determined to be 200 feet deep and has a top drive submersible pump at about 175 feet down. Water level is at 122 feet and the well has a casing that's 8-inch diameter. His intent was to get his camera down there, but there wasn't room between the casing and the drive for the pump. So he measured it with a tape measure. So the plan is to go ahead and pull the pump out, get that pulled out of there, and then the camera can go down it. Once that's done, it'll be determined if the casing needs to be pulled out. Right now, he's thinking the casing does not need to be pulled out, that we'd be able to fill it with bentonite to abandon it. So right now, the project is for pulling the pump and piping and the motor off and all that to get it ready for abandonment is around $5,000. And I looked into facilities budget, would be able to absorb the $5,000 budget, so I wouldn't have to ask for money from anywhere. And then once that is all done, then I figured probably about $1,000 worth of bentonite would have to go down to finish it up and abandon it. And then at that time, you know, I'd still like to go ahead and demolish the pump house itself and the cistern that's up there. Dave from the Public Works Director from the city of Menominee called me this last week and wanted to get an update because he was aware of it from the Facebook post. And so he was asking me about it. And of course, the city has to have a permit to demolish the pump house and cistern, and they did agree to waive the fee for it. So we'd have to get the information to them for that and get it taken care of. But that would reduce the county's liability if all that was gone. We wouldn't have people wanting to go up on that hill and explore things and see what it's all about. And I guess my thoughts are doing the demolition. I would work with highway to see if they would be able to do it because they have the equipment and dump trucks. If we had to haul stuff out of there and get it disposed of, it'd probably be at a cheaper price than contracting it out. So in projects, we installed a new steel. Oh yeah, I have a question. Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
So on this cost for pulling that pump out of there seems kind of steep. Is there any chance you'd want to entertain getting another price on it?
I sure could.
I mean, if you figure a truck and a guy at $200 an hour, that's still 25 hours.
And the problem is getting up to it with a truck and making an area for the truck to be on. Because if you go up there, it's all sloping away from it. There's no place to put a truck, so that's considered in there. And then pulling it up. they have to pull it up, and if they have to weld something onto it so it doesn't go back down in, and then pull up more after they cut that section off and pull it out like that. It's sounds like quite a process. But yeah, it's up on the hill where it's not a good spot to really work, but I'm open to getting a second price and see where it's at.
Even if you don't get or maybe a second opinion or something as far as cost?
Sure,
I mean,
I could do that.
it does seem a little on the high side.
Okay, I can definitely get a second opinion on it, especially now that we know the depth and stuff and where it's at, what's down there. I can definitely do that.
Yes, go ahead, sir.
That bentonite you're talking about, you have to
Yep.
fill the whole pipe or you just cap it?
No, you fill the whole thing.
Oh, yeah?
The whole well has to be filled with bentonite.
Okay.
I'm just curious, under what circumstances would you have to pull the casing? If it's cracked or something?
If
or-
it is a, from what I understand, if the casing is not perforated, then it would have to be pulled up.
If it's not perforated?
Yep.
Hmm.
And that will be determined once the camera goes down. Is that your understanding, Mike, or do you have?
I don't do a lot of that work.
Okay, you don't have the
I haven't
knowledge on
done
that?
that in 20 years.
Okay. Well, maybe you had some insight on that, but that's figuring.
I was still an apprentice the last time I worked on wells.
Okay. Yeah, my understanding that it sounds like they think that it is perforated, so it wouldn't have to be, the casing could stay and just get filled.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I will move on to projects then. We did install new sheeting on Farm Bureau shelter at the rec park, which that steel on it was getting really rusty, and there was a hole through that they had filled with some great stuff, spray foam. So we got that taken care of. It looks really nice. The guys did a great job on that. Flowers were planted out front of the government center here. That was Margaret from Master Gardeners and Melissa from the extension office worked very hard on that, along with facilities guys. Got them planted in there. They've been getting watered and hopefully getting established to make the landscaping around here look a little better. We haven't done anything with the mulch yet. We wanted to wait till the flowers start getting a little bigger and getting established, and then we would top off the mulch around to make it look nicer. Flowers are also planted over at Judicial Center in outside of both entrances. Katie from the clerk of court's office had brought in some perennial flowers and planted, and Bob and Jacob had hauled in new mulch around there. They did the front entrances and by the signs around the flagpole. Really looks nice. And at the same time, we worked on the flagpole lights and installed some LED lights there. The flagpole lights have not been working for some time. A past employee said that someone had drove a steel fence post down and severed the wires, and that it wasn't working for that reason, and they never pursued fixing it. And so Bob and Jacob looked into it and figured out that the wire was not severed, and that the light fixture itself was full of water and was probably grounding out from that. So we took care of that and did LED lights. Those are now working. So it's looking a lot better over at Judicial also. Also set out some picnic tables for staff to sit out at picnic tables if they want to eat lunch. And the picnic tables have been getting used quite regularly over there. Fleet wise, there's no updates on the fleet. Still waiting for the Malibus to come in. Haven't heard any word on those. I'm thinking it's probably going to be a year, because I think it was the end of July we ordered them last year. So still waiting for them. I sent out a copy of the financials for you guys. Any questions on those? The monthly financial report.
Tim, did you have any questions?
No, nothing for me. Just interesting conversation about the well, though. Appreciate that. Really don't know much about it.
Okay, and then I included the two solar quotes. I haven't had a chance to really go over these and dig into them, but we got a quote. One is for NDC West and one is for the government center. They originally did two quotes for NDC West that they they did a quote for NDC West and a quote for NDC Central. NDC Central, they put the solar panels mounted on the roof. They thought that that would be better because of the electrical boxes for Central building are out in front, and it would be closer if you went and put them on the roof. So then it was a question of, well, what happens when the roof needs to be replaced? Because shingles now on there are 11 years old. So they checked into it, came back and said, well, it would cost $25,000 for them to remove the panels to re-roof. So that was the difference between putting them on the roof or putting them out back. So there's no point in putting them on the roof. So they're gonna do another quote for those to be put out back. And the quote for NDC West is out back. The quote for the government center is for putting the panels out in the vacant green space area between here and judicial, or here and the government, or no, here and neighbors out toward to the south, toward the highway. That open area there, they would put them in. And then I just sent out you guys a copy, electronic copy of Abrina's report that I got from her. I haven't had a chance to look that over, but hopefully by next meeting, we can all look it over. And if there's any questions on that, we can invite Brina back and she can give us some insight onto the final report and answer any questions that we have. Last, Red Cedar Racing is going to have their fireworks show on July 7th. It will be a 15-minute show to be done well before 10:30, since they're not running as many classes that night. It's T&K Fireworks that did the show last year, so they have their insurance, and then Red Cedar Racing has their $2 million umbrella policy, same as last year. John Johnson gave me the information to let the committee know about it, and then if there's no opposition, I can send over a permission letter for them so that they have one from the property owner. So there's no opposition, I could get one over to him.
Does anybody have any opposition to the fireworks?
No, I don't.
Just a quick question. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Tim.
Oh, okay. The only question I would have is, fire issue, burn ban, that kind of situation. Will that create a problem or not?
It shouldn't. He was getting working with the fire department as far as getting permission from them, getting a permit to have it.
Okay.
They
Well,
were
they
okay.
wouldn't give it unless they said it's okay.
Mm.
All right, that's all I got for my report.
Mr. Chairman, I have a couple of
Yes,
comments
sir.
on these solar panels. It's kind of interesting. I think I haven't looked at them real closely either, but I just skimmed over them, and they have a 25-year warranty on the modules and the inverters and the mounting material. And usually the inverters kind of conk out a lot before that. So that's kind of interesting. And then they also have a 25-year warranty on their workmanship. Now, I don't know if that's a prorated warranty or if it probably is prorated, but still that looks pretty good. And then usually when we've looked at this a couple years ago, the average cost of a watt was about $3 and they're quoting 225, so it hasn't gone up much. And then the other question I have is, and maybe we'll need to get back to them. They say an estimated federal credit of 30%. They've got that figured in. My impression was that was a tax credit and we can't utilize that. So I don't know if they know something we don't know, or maybe that new law that went into effect, maybe we'll have something in there. But otherwise, just superficially looking over this, it looks like payback is 7 years. That's counting that 30% in there. But yeah, I think I'm kind of excited about this. So anyway, and then it looks like in Rabrina's report, I just looked through that a little bit too tonight, or this morning or this afternoon. And she's got a lot of good numbers in there that we can probably use. The consumption of electricity and natural gas. She's got all those in there for the buildings. So that should come in handy too as we start looking at some of this stuff. And then just another little thing I got in Sierra Magazine, they had a summary of the IRA or the IRA. Yeah, that's this bill that came to the Reduction Act, Inflation Reduction Act. And there's all kinds of credits in there. Mainly this would be for homeowners, but there's even a heat pump clothes dryer now, which I didn't know about. And you can get $800 reduction on that. Induction stove, if you're thinking of buying a new electric stove, $840. Battery storage, 30% credit. Weatherization of your house, $1,200. So, if you plan on doing anything like that, it just pays to look into it. Now, this is based on income level also. So there's a little in there, but I just thought you might be interested in that. Heat pump HVA system, $8,000. You can get up to $8,000 credit, which is okay. That's all I have. Thanks.
Anybody else have some comments? I do have a couple comments. I also had the same question as Don on the rebates. It did have a note if we use outside third-party funding. I'm assuming that don't mean the bank. So then the payback being 7 years, I wonder why we went borrow for 7 years then, because with 9.5% interest, we're paying $350,000, not $186,000 for that solar panel. And that's assuming that we're only paying $187,000, not the additional $100,000 of credits that would have to get added into it. So we may want to look at doing 7 years. If the payback for the equipment or the solar panels are 7 years, to me, it would make sense that we only borrow that money for 7 years and we only pay half as much interest. It'd be different if we were at 3% interest still. And then I guess just on the location, I seem to, it's like beating a dead horse, but the area that they're looking to put the panels, is that a buildable area or is that a area that's not buildable due to the airport? With all of our unbuildable area, I just really cringe at the thought of using it up for a solar field when we got 1,000 acres of non-buildable area.
So I'm not for certain if that is an area that is unbuildable. It would be straight north of the neighbors' buildings. I would have to follow up with the city and find out how far off of the runway, to the west of the airport that could be built on. I
mean, we will eventually be looking at doing something with highway and and some different
Mhm.
things that will require a building site, and in the future years to come, I'd hate to use up a space that now we have to either move solar panels or can't, or buy more land or something that we can't afford. Okay. Any other comments for Scott? We will move on to corporate council staff report, the leasing of the transfer station. I guess I don't see it.
Nick sent me a message on that, sent me an email, and he did not have any updates on the leasing of the transfer station.
We can move on to consideration for action to be taken by the committee on the camping in the parks.
And Nick included in his email that the work on the parks ordinance isn't done yet.
All right, we will move on to no, we won't move on to camping in the parks. We'll move on to consideration or reports, resolutions, and ordinance to be recommended to the county board by the facilities. We have in front of us a request by the town of Sand Creek to resume ownership of Myron Park. Would you like to address that, sir?
Yes. So I received a letter from the town of Sand Creek regarding Myron Park, and I can read the letter to you. It was addressed to Dunn County Facilities and Parks. Dear Administrator, the town of Sand Creek is interested in resuming ownership of Myron Park, parcel 17028 2-311-220-00001, which would include all deeds and rights. Myron Park was donated to the town of Sand Creek by Anna Myron on September 12th, 1969. The town then donated the park to Dunn County in 1973 for the purpose of taking advantage of a Green Thumb program grant. The town of Sand Creek has been overseeing and maintaining the operations of the park since that time. The town and community has donated much time and has completed many improvements with little to no county involvement. This past year included a major well drilling operation. Due to the time and investment that the citizens of Sand Creek has put towards the park, the community of Sand Creek respectfully requests that the deed and ownership revert back to the town of Sand Creek. That's signed Michael Nelson, Chair, Town of Sand Creek. So I included a staff report, which stated that I received the letter and that the town of Sand Creek has operated Myron Park for many years without the financial support of the county. They've done a great job at operating and maintaining the campground over the years. And as Facilities and Parks Director for Dunn County, I have no obligations to turning ownership of Myron Park back to the town of Sand Creek.
Comments?
I do, if I may.
Go ahead,
Uh,
Tim. Supervisor Lena, I'm sorry.
yeah, has there been any chat with Nick about that? Any legal ramifications that we may be overlooking?
There has been discussion with Nick. He's been aware of it as soon as I got the letter. He's already started working on a resolution if the committee approves it and wants to move forward. It would need to be a deed and should contain same limitation as the original Myron to Sand Creek deed, which is that to be used for park purposes only. And then there was a question of the antiques that are at the park, which the antiques would be included in the resolution as a list. and included in the property being given back to the town, which we would verify. Last time I was there, all the antiques were still there. There's a shelter that they're in for people to look at and everything, but so Nick is looking at all the legal side of it that needs to be taken care of.
Okay, thank you. I just thought it was something that we ought to consider. That's all.
Go ahead, Supervisor Score.
It's still gonna be a park, no matter who owns it, right?
Yes.
I think it's a good idea. We don't do any snow plowing or mowing or anything up there. Yeah, seems to me a good idea.
And the town of Sand Creek had, it was in preparation of the well issue. So they were aware of the problem. They had saved up or put money aside for that. And so when that issue came up, that the well failed, they were prepared to go ahead and get the well drilled. I worked with the town of Sand Creek on that just as Dunn County representative, as owner of the property. But they paid for everything, they arranged everything, and everything went through fine. So we worked together with the DNR and got it all approved and passed and inspected, and everything worked out great.
So in all practical purposes, nothing would change. The township would continue to operate and manage it as they do now. It's just the county no longer has ownership, but it remains a park and it has to remain a park.
Yes, that would be the same stipulation where it was donated from was it Anna Myron back in 1969 to the town of Sand Creek. It would be the same stipulations that it would remain a park.
So this is
Do we need
a
a,
action item, so we would need a motion.
and would that motion need to go to executive or to the full board?
It would be coming forward as an action from the same board thing, just to for review by executive and action.
So it would go to the board. Executive would review it en route. Is that correct, Chris?
Yeah.
Did you get that, Tim?
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we move this on to the full board.
Do we hear a second? Motion made and seconded. Any discussion or further discussion on this topic? Go ahead.
So will a resolution come back to us, or will it just Nick will forward one? Like, I'm guessing all the paperwork. We just have to make the resolution that we want to do this, and then it just happens.
Yeah, I believe Nick would prepare it and it would go forward to.
Unless you feel there's a concern about the way it's written or something that you wanted it to come back first.
No, I was just curious.
Any other concerns or questions regarding that? Actually, I think that's a very good point, but guess we can address it. If we don't like it at the county board, we can say, wait, that's not what we wanted. If there's no further comments, all in favor? Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. We will send that on to the county board. Budget adjustments. Do you want to speak to that, or do you want me to speak to that? You can speak to it.
I can speak to it, yes. So back in January, we sold a 2017 Chevy Silverado pickup that on Wisconsin surplus, sold it for $30,500, and that was put into or brought, deposited. And so I'm requesting that budget adjustment be granted so that the $30,500 could be used in the facilities budget to purchase some equipment this year. As far as equipment, we have a broom that is used on a John Deere 1575 tractor that the drive shaft is broken on it, and this is a 2012 model broom. It's seen a lot of use, and a new drive shaft is $1,500. So I think I'm looking at it's a good time to replace this with a new model. The cost of that, I believe, is $5,400 for the broom. Also, I want to look at getting a snow blower for the front of our John Deere 3039 tractor. I worked with Dustin at Highway. Dustin had a 3-point snow blower that would go on the back of our John Deere 5100 tractor. The guys at Highway did not like it because of backing up, and they generally plow their snow. They don't blow it. So Dustin and I talked about it, and so the 3-point snowblower is coming to facilities so that we can use it. My plan with this snowblower and getting one for the front of the 3039 tractor is that we can plow snow on the pavement to the edge of the pavement and then blow it off the pavement instead of pushing piles off of the pavement and ruining our lawn every year. We spend a lot of time in the spring repairing the lawn from what the snow plowing. So this would be a better move for it. Over at the neighbors, there's not a lot of area to push snow. With a blower, we could blow the snow up over the trees in the back, or we could blow it out front to go down in the water run. I think it would work much better instead of having piles of snow like we've had in the past. Runoff would be a lot better. And then also I'd like to replace so the price of a snow blower for the 3039 tractor for the front of it. I quoted one of those out, I believe it was $5,800. And then I also would like to replace our salt spreader that we currently have that we salt the parking lots with. And get one with a larger capacity. The one that we have now is a shorter one. And when Highway goes to dump salt in there with their loader bucket, it spills into the back of the truck because the bucket is wider than our spreader. So it makes for a mess, and then we have to refill it more often. I looked at prices of spreaders that would be 8 foot long, so their bucket would fill it and not spill all the salt. And they're right in the between $4,000 and $5,000 range. And then I could sell off the one that we have and recoup the cost of that, and put that toward the new one. So there's a number of items that we could use the $30,500 from the sale of that truck to get equipment for facilities.
Go ahead.
So the difference between the two amounts, do we just keep that as in the assets so we could get more things in the future? Is that how it works? Because it looks like there's a $13,000 difference between the 30 and the 3 items.
So yes, the 30,000 would be put into facilities budget this year, so it could be spent for those items. And then any leftover amount could be spent in the facilities budget, or,
Okay.
Back to
what
the
we're
general.
gonna do. Yeah.
So is that typical procedure to do that?
As far as a budget adjustment to do
Yeah.
this? Yes.
Okay. And I would say we're gonna have to pay to fix that broken drive shaft or replace that regardless of whether we make this adjustment or not.
Mhm.
And some of these items really need to be purchased, and
Mhm.
it only makes sense that
Yeah.
we do it this way as to go back and ask for more money.
Yeah, I have not asked for a budget adjustment on, like any of the stuff that we've sold to surplus items and stuff like that, and money's been deposited, brought back, and that's ended up in the general fund. In this one, I have some equipment that I'd like to get a hold of, like to purchase to make the department run a lot smoother. And so that's the general procedure, is that you ask for a budget adjustment to be able to use that, much like when we got the grant for the Caddy Woodlawn roofs, from the Rotary Club. Then we got the grant, it was deposited, and then it had to be a budget adjustment requested in order to be able to spend the money.
Made sense to me. I just wanted to make sure when we get questioned on it at a later point, that
Yep,
we're not
yep.
trying to hide money from the general fund.
No,
'Cause there's never enough in there either.
Many departments have monthly budget adjustments like this.
All right, do I hear a motion?
I'll move. I'll move.
Do I hear a second?
Second, Tim Leno.
Yeah, I think Ann beat you to it, Tim. That was just the
Yeah.
delay in your speaker. All right, all in favor? Is there any further discussion? All in,
Just a quick
oh, go
discussion,
ahead. Yes, Tim.
quick discussion. Why was the 2017 truck sold to begin with?
That one was sold because we replaced with the leased ones that we got, the new plow trucks. So that one.
Oh, okay.
That one
Makes
was,
sense.
that was owned by us, and it was at the point of starting to incur some repair costs or maintenance costs. And we got the leased trucks that are 2022s. And so we won't have any maintenance costs on those.
Okay, thank you.
All, no other comments? All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. And I believe that is the last item. Next meeting is to be determined, because I believe we have a county board meeting
Yes.
when we would normally have our.
That's
meeting.
why I put to be determined, so that we could figure that out here at this meeting.
So in July, we would typically have it on the 26th. What would make sense? I guess we can't just choose any date because the room's probably taken.
Yeah, sometimes.
Do we want to do it on is like a Tuesday evening available, I wonder? 25th?
I'm looking right now.
So do I have any feedback from the committee as far as when we would like to do it? Sounds like the 25th would be available.
I could spare Ron and Larry.
Works for
We
me.
won't be here on the 26th either. Do I hear any opposition to July 25th? Well, then I will recommend we do it on the 25th. And okay, nobody's
Sounds good.
complaining, so I guess we'll have our next meeting on July 25th at 6 o'clock. And at this time, this meeting is adjourned.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good 4th.